So then, brothers and sisters, we are debtors, not to the flesh, to live according to the flesh. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the deeds of the body, you will live. For all who are led by the Spirit of God are children of God. For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received a spirit of adoption. When we cry, Abba, Father, it is that very Spirit bearing witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God and joint heirs with Christ, if in fact we suffer with him, so that we may also be glorified with him. I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not worth comparing with the glory about to be revealed to us. For the creation waits with eager longing for the revealing of the children of God. For the creation was subjected to futility, not of its own will, but by the will of the one who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself will be set free from its bondage to decay and will obtain the freedom of the glory of the children of God. We know that the whole creation has been groaning in labor pains until now. And not only the creation, but we ourselves, who have the first fruits of the Spirit, groan inwardly while we wait for adoption, the redemption of our bodies. For in hope we were saved. Now hope that is seen is not hope. For who hopes for what is seen? But if we hope for what we do not see, we wait for it with patience. The Word of God for the people of God. Please be seated. Well, grace and peace to the disciples of Jesus. Today our focus is on hope. Years ago in his book, Success Through a Positive Mental Attitude, business writer Napoleon Hill told about a successful cosmetic manufacturer, Charles Revson, the founder of the Revlon Cosmetic Company, who decided that he would retire at the age of 65. Each year thereafter, his friends and former business associates gave him a birthday party and tried to find out the secrets of his success. In other words, the secret for his special cosmetic formula. But year after year, he refused good-naturedly to reveal his secret. Maybe I will tell you next year, he would say. This went on for 10 years until the businessman celebrated his 75th birthday. As usual, his associates begged him to share the secret formula with them so they could continue the business after his death. Finally, he yielded to their insistence. In addition to the things which I use, which are commonly known, he said, there is one secret ingredient that I package with every bottle. By this time, everybody at the party was listening with undivided attention. What is it? An anxious friend inquired. Please don't keep us in suspense any longer. Revson replied, I never told a woman that my product would make her beautiful, but I always gave her hope. Hope, he said, is the magic ingredient. Well, hope is the magic ingredient, whether in life or in death, in good times or times of sorrow. The magic ingredient is the assurance that regardless of how challenging today is, God is in charge. And that is what St. Paul in Romans 8:28 says. All things work to the good for those who love him. That's hope. In today's lesson, which is devoted to hope, St. Paul writes, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Think about that for a moment. That is what hope is all about. It is the admission that the present times may not be perfect. In fact, they may be heart-wrenching, but if we trust in God, we know that there are better days that lie ahead. Our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. St. Paul knew that none of us get through life without wrestling at some time or another with some daunting challenges. I'm sure each of us could share some daunting challenges that we've experienced in our lives. During the Vietnam War, Admiral James Stockdale was the highest-ranking U.S. officer taken as a prisoner by the Vietnamese. For 8 years, James Stockdale was held hostage under horrific circumstances in a POW camp where he was tortured regularly. But he never gave up. In fact, he was a remarkable inspiration to his fellow soldiers. Jim Collins, author of the best-selling book, Good to Great, had the opportunity to spend time in Stockdale. Collins writes, "What separates people," Stockdale taught, "is not the presence of absence of difficulty, but how you deal with that difficulty in your life. It's not the absence of it, it's how you deal with it." Stockdale believed that if you retain faith, that you will prevail in the end regardless of the difficulty. And at the same time, confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they might be, and you will be victorious if you remain faithful. Stockdale's convictions were not based on blind optimism, he said. They were not based on blind optimism. He was asked about prisoners who did not survive. He replied, "Oh, that's easy. These were the optimists. They were the ones who said, we're going to be out by Christmas." And Christmas would come, and Christmas would go. Then they'd say, we're going to be out by Easter. And Easter would come, and Easter would go. And then Thanksgiving, and then it would be Christmas again. One by one, he said, they died of a broken heart. James Stockdale did not die of a broken heart. In fact, in 1992, he was a running mate with Ross Perot. But notice Stockdale's emphasis. Hope is not the same as blind optimism. The belief that somehow everything will work out just fine. Without God, nothing is certain to work out just fine. Without God, nothing is certain to work out just fine. A good example of such persistence in the face of adverse circumstances is with the early Christian community. They faced horrific circumstances at times, yet they never gave up. They never gave in to their fear. They never gave up. They continued to believe in Christ. They were certain that God was with them and that God would see them through whatever challenges they faced. They embodied St. Paul's words. Their present sufferings were not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. How else could they keep going if they did not have hope? Years ago, a husband and wife and their grown son came from Sicily to southern Illinois. There, both father and son fell on work in a coal mine. But then tragedy struck. There was an explosion at the mine. The father was killed and the son was maimed. While he was recovering in the hospital, the young man, along with his mother, came to trust Jesus as their Savior. This had such a profound effect on them that they changed their surname. The name they chose for themselves was Sperandio. In Italian, that means, my hope is in God. This phrase became the young man's inspiration to complete college, a graduate degree, and become a college professor. His name was the model of his life. Sperandio, my hope is in God. Where else is such hope to be found? Do you know of any other place? Now we look for it in all kinds of other places, don't we? Government, education, science. None of these can reach where you're hurt during those darkest times. Only faith in God's promises can do that. It's like a story a Lutheran pastor tells. It is about a young man he met while visiting Dublin, Ireland one summer. The pastor noticed this young man had on his desk in his study a plaque with 2 words on it. In fact, I'm thinking about getting this made up. I like it that much. The words were, "But God." Pastor was so impressed by this plaque that he had one made up like it for his own desk. Visitors to his office would ask him, "What do you mean by those 2 words, but God?" He explained that in his hour of deepest need, he had learned to say, "But God." But God will help. In a moment of utter despair, he could say, "But God will give me hope." In a moment of loneliness, he could say, "But God is with me." When he felt insignificant and unwanted, it would help him to repeat, "But God loves me." 2 simple words. but God. That always turned the scale from despair to hope, from defeat to victory, from sin to salvation. He reported, but God, but God. You see, that is much more than blind optimism, that everything is simply going to work out all right. Such faith recognizes that life can often be hard, sometimes brutally hard. But if we maintain our faith, and if we will persist and not give up, God will come through for us. And we must believe that. As long as there is hope, Christian hope, life is worth living. The late Annie Bruner once said, "What oxygen is for the lungs, such is hope for the meaning of human life." And he was right. Really, a hope-filled life is the only life worth living. Let me tell you about a young man who discovered the meaning of such hope. Some of you may know this gentleman. Some of you may know the football fans, the name Russell Holcomb. Holcomb was chosen twice to play in the Pro Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks. More recently, he played with Denver and then with the Los Angeles Chargers. He is a man with strong convictions. While with the Seahawks, he did an interview in which he shared his faith in Jesus Christ. Listen to his words. "I grew up being extremely self-sufficient. My father passed away when I was a young child, making me the man of the household. I was a young child and I took that responsibility very seriously. As I grew up, I did a lot of things for myself and became really independent. However, in college, a hurricane went through Houston and my mom and sister were at the house by themselves. I was off at school. It was a tough time. They called and said the house had flooded. They told me they would be all right, but I remember looking at myself and saying, why? Why was this going on? Why did my father pass away as a young child? Why did I feel this way? All of these whys, in asking that, I found out some things were just out of my control. I couldn't do everything on my own. I thought that there had to be something bigger to make sense of what was happening in my life. I remember sitting at chapel one day when God spoke. It's crazy how God will come to you, even in the most small, subtle ways, sometimes in a whisper. You don't have to do this alone. I am with you. At that moment, I realized God had always been there, since I was a very small child. Even though I thought I was doing things on my own, I couldn't have done anything without Him. When that happened, I knew God could only be my present home. If I truly believed in Him, everything would take care of itself. And it did. All of a sudden, I noticed things were changing. I felt more at peace within me. And I felt a peace within the situations I faced. I learned and trusted God with everything I had and decided to give it all to Him. Russell Holcomb, a big, tough, former professional football player, was describing the magic ingredient in his life. Hope. Christian hope. The belief that we may go through some rough times that we may not understand. But if we trust God and persist in our faith in Him, He will always come through. We are not alone. St. Paul writes, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. Do you and I have that kind of faith, that kind of confidence in God? It truly is the magic ingredient that takes our lives to a whole new level. Hope.